real pleasure for me as a longtime fan to be sitting here with Aaron Gray.
Here with Larry Hama.
We're talking with Kevin J. Anderson, best-selling author.
Mr. Neil Adams.
I am here with David Fritz.
Axel Alonso, editor.
Shadow Stevens. And Devil's Comic-Con with John Delancey.
With Tom King.
Kevin Conroy.
Free comic book day.
Denise Crosby.
PopCon Pop Expo.
Here on location at Star Wars Celebration.
Sci-Fi Expo, talking for our second time with Gil Gerard.
Wichita, Kansas at Time Eddie.
Producer David Gerald.
I've got Eric Flint.
Are here at Smallville Comic-Con.
Wizard World St. Louis.
VillageCon in Bentonville, Arkansas.
Michael Lombardi.
We were talking with Alan Dean.
Quincy Allen.
Suzanne Landon.
Founder of Starlog Magazine, Mr. Kerry Oakwood.
Chris Sami.
Len Lee. Dave Schwartz. Mano Intirami. Jason Aaron.
This is Sci-Fi for Me, your portal to the science fiction multiverse.
The Immortal Mask, a 1970s superhero crime noir adventure that follows a retired soldier who is given a covenant interview with a death row inmate. What he learns from the interview thrusts him into Atlanta's shadowy underworld. He will have to utilize his military training to survive from being hunted for the information that could topple the most powerful ruling class in the city. This is not a pre-order or a crowdfunding campaign. Get your books now at denali's.com.
25 seconds to curtain, folks.
Your favorite podcast is Critical Blast.
Ladies and gentlemen, Avalon Comics is in the house.
How you doing?
I'm doing all right, man. I forgot to ask, is it Starocci?
Starocci, yep.
Starocci, with a hard sound. Okay.
Yep.
Brandon Starocci, you are the co-writer, co-creator of the series here? Or
Yes.
where do you fall in?
The creator and writer, yeah, co-writer, yep.
All right. And you've sent me the preview material. I have read it over. We're going to talk about what the book is about here. We have a hopping chat already. Pops Van Zant is in the house with us and has already put the link in the chat, which reminds me, as I am often lax on doing, we'll just run the banner the whole time to remind people that it's there. And it is also right below the video, the link, the one you can actually click on. Just get out there. It's a pre-launch right now, but Brandon's going to show us some more interiors so that you can get a good feel about what this is. Mike Walters in the chat has dropped in to say hi and share. Do appreciate that. J.R. Exner's out here smashing suppression and fighting xenophobia. Hail Xenu, our true Lord and Savior, of course. So
it's rocking right now. Thanks for having me.
So this is not Avalon number 1 or even number 2. This is basically number 5, and you're just, you can get 1 through 4 while you're backing, but that's a heck of a record.
Yeah, so actually 1 through 3 are physically out right now. This Kickstarter, we're doing like a duo one. So 4 and 5 are going to be the new ones coming out with this Kickstarter that we're doing. We decided to do that so we can kind of move along as planned, as we wanted to drop an issue out each quarter of the year this year. and really wrap up this first season that we kind of are finishing up here at the end of the year here coming up. So we thought it was best to knock 2 of them out in one Kickstarter and add a bunch of cool rewards that we're planning on doing here, that we're wrapping those up as well. And on top of that, I guess I might as well throw it out there. Towards the end of April is when we're looking to launch our Kickstarter as well.
Right. So everybody, wallets are safe tonight, but do go out to the page. Yeah, you just click that notify me button so that you get the emails. So that when it goes live, you'll know, oh yeah, that's that thing that I saw on that show. Get in there and you'll be able to back it. Having read the first issue, my takeaway is this is zombies.
Yes.
Okay. And I'm going to hit you with the hard question first. Why do we need another zombie apocalypse story?
No, and it's definitely a good question though too, because a lot of people, even myself at this point, I'm a big fan of the zombie genre, and it definitely is a flooded world right now, especially now since The Last of Us came out. So, and I guess fortunately on our part is we had this idea before The Last of Us was decided to be a show, before, not before the game, but before the show. But so I guess why zombie apocalypse? I'm a big fan, like I mentioned, of zombies, the zombie genre and everything about it. There's a lot of things I also don't like about it. So when I was watching a lot of things like The Walking Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Night of the Living Dead, all those kind of things in the genre, I took a lot of things out of it, and then it came down to the ultimate question: what I would do in the zombie apocalypse. So I always formed up these scenarios in my head and all that stuff, and then it got to the point where I wanted to make it a project, way back in high school, when I was in high school, so probably near a decade now, is when the idea kind of stemmed out, and I didn't know what to do with it. I was inexperienced in this kind of creative world. I had no clue what I was doing. Many years go by, I meet Alan, and I pitched this idea with him, with the 3 brothers going through basically hell on top of everything else being hell. Like normal day life is hard with them because mental health is a big thing that we touch on with this comic book as well. And so we wanted to bring new things in this zombie genre, in the zombie world, that we don't think have been brought into many projects in the past. A lot of it is just zombie kills or survival in a certain area and just moving on and so on. But we really wanted to bring depth to the characters and real life issues to these characters and make these characters feel as relatable as possible. And mental health, especially now more than ever, is the biggest thing for us, for them.
Yeah, and that's the one thing I did notice in the first issue, is that there was just enough zombie to let you know something's going on. And,
Sure.
and it's not like it's the rest of the focus was on these people that you get involved in their lives, but what's going on around them is the start of this apocalypse. And it's not like Night of the Living Dead, where you wake up in the morning and there are hordes of things just crawling. It's a very slow progression, where it's like this, hey, this crazy person came up and bit me. And he's the only one. But it's enough to spread. And that may sound slow, but I did a lot of math in my career. And one of my favorite little math stories is the guy who did something special for the king, and the king said, hey, name your reward and I'll give it to you. He's like, well, put for the next 30 days, put a piece of grain on one of these chest tiles here, and then tomorrow put 2 on the next one, and then the day after that put twice as many on the next one, and just when you fill up the chessboard, then I'll be paid off. Binary progression is a bitch, people.
Yeah, no, right. No, that's just the thing though too. And one of the things that people will come to learn as you're reading Avalon though too is our infection is going to be a little different than the zombies that you've seen in the past. We do hold true to some standard values as well, because I'm a fan of the traditional zombies, but we added our own little twists and turns to the infection that you will see over time. It's not too dramatic. It's enough to stay in the world. But we're very intrigued with what we ended up coming up with, and we're excited to get it out there. And you will see the differences in our infected as time goes on. And that's what we're excited to show you guys. That's its own story in itself. But like you said, though, too, like one bite turns into 2, turns into 4, and it just goes on. It happens
It's like
quicker
a billion after 30 days. So.
Yeah, right, exactly, yeah.
So I want to ask you how your zombies are going to differ, but I think that's a story point that you want people to find out in the story. So I'm going to ask, generic zombie questions like, why do zombies always have to be very single-minded? They shamble to eat. Like, you were a human being once, your brain is still there. Some of you should still remember how to drive a car.
Well, and what's funny with that as well, and I'll say this too, it's funny because we think the same things. We're on the same mindset right there, and that's why this infection is a little different than what you've seen in the past, like your Walking Dead or your Dawn of the Dead and all that stuff too. There's a progression with this, and you'll come to find out in later issues why or what happens to the individual person in that period of time, and you'll see what breaks them down. So I guess I'll leave it at that, where there's an explanation for it. It's not so much like you get bit, okay, you're a zombie now, or you're going to turn into a psycho. There's something, and there's I guess science behind it rather. We did a lot of research and a lot of different things, and that's why we're pretty excited to get this out there for people to see it and all that stuff too, with the research that we've come up with, and to make our own kind of infected, to make it seem real, like it could be real, it could happen, and that's the scary kind of cool thing with this comic that we're doing too, is with all the research we've done, it could happen. It's something that could take place, and that's what makes it fun. And the big thing for us is trying to ground this in as much reality as possible, but in obviously a fictional world, because there's no zombies, so.
I mean, there are viruses out there that when they take over a host, they literally, and I'm not talking about human sized, I'm talking about much smaller things, but they literally take over the host and make the host do things that are beneficial to the virus. Rabies, for example.
Sure. Yeah.
The rabies virus, it's destroyed by water. So what does it do? It induces hydrophobia in its host, so its host won't drink.
Yes. And that's just it. And with those little science things too, I'm not gonna say it's anything like that, but that's kind of sciences behind our virus, or whatever you want to call it at this point, so it's going to be interesting to see it issue to issue come out. And as issues come out, you're going to start seeing, as these characters develop, obviously, as well, because that's the focus. But in the background, you're going to kind of see the differences, and you're going to kind of see how they're different, how they develop, and how they come to this point and all that stuff too. And, talking about it too, it gets exciting, and it will get more exciting for an average person who I guess is sick and tired of the zombie genre. There's a lot of new and fresh things that we bring into this world that we're excited to bring into this world, because as a zombie fan myself, I can definitely agree with a lot of people where it is flooded. Some of them overstayed their welcome, sure, and all that stuff too. I'll admit it too, and I'm a big fan of the zombie genre. So with that being said, we're excited to show what we got.
The Walking Dead has had a huge fan base, and they're still sticking around for the spinoffs. So
sure,
and of course, like you said, The Last of Us, that just sort of like came right in with a short gap after Walking Dead. So they're like, okay, yeah, great, we got another zombie show to watch, and people are in on it.
yeah.
So there's something magnetic about it still.
Sure, yeah, there's something there. It's just as long as you're doing it right, and I think the genre, and I've talked to other zombie people as well, like Path of the Pale Rider and the Rays Comics creators. We've talked about this in the past as well. Like one of our questions is the zombie genre dead? And, all of us came to the same conclusion where it's not dead. It's just, the genre itself is just like any kind of genre, like action or sci-fi or thriller. Zombies have developed their own genre and their kind of own worlds, but it's just what you do within that world. If you make the same action movie, it gets boring, it gets dumb. You have to do different things. Same thing goes for romances or suspense or horror. So you just have to change it up and do new things and keep it interesting. But I believe in still holding some of those traditional values, because that's what keeps that grounded in that genre, just like horror genre or slashers or stuff like that. You have to hold those traditional values, just make it new at the same time, come up with original ideas.
Right. Well, zombie it's strange because they shouldn't have become a genre. They're a creature. They're a character, and a character can be put into any genre. We've had zombie romance stories, Warm Bodies. We had stuff like that. So you could technically have a zombie financial drama if you just had a bunch of deadheads that needed to run a quick Ponzi scheme to buy raw meat because they were running out and they don't want to kill anybody. So they're selling Amway or something.
right. No, I could get it on that perspective as well. I think anything, you could do anything with anything. It's just make sure you're doing it right. Have all your things lined up the way it should be. Make sure your story, the foundation of your story is stable and all that stuff as well. And I think you could do a lot. Even saying with just speaking for Avalon too, though, it's just like I guess when I was watching a lot of these zombie things, I love the reality that some of them brought. And then Alan as well, when we first got together with it, that was our big focus, is trying to make this feel real. A lot of these characters say real things. They say things that I've heard. They say things that I've said. A lot of these characters are a lot of these conversations, that these characters have are real conversations that I've heard in person. And just made and morphed it into the story and all that stuff as well. So it's just, we want to make it all feel like anybody can relate to any of these characters.
Yeah. So I put up the page here, which this is where the link goes. Look, there's nothing else there, folks. It's just to notify me. You do this, you just click it, and they will email you when the project launches. There, it's done. It's that simple. So just go in, give it a click, folks. It's currently got 18 followers, so you haven't been out there very long. You guys have been kind of letting me down in the past couple of weeks here. Okay, I haven't seen any backers. There's no backers this time. Let me see some interest at least. Show people that you're there. Be the Who's on Horton's little spec saying, "We are here. We are here.
There we
are
go.
Here."
Shout it from the hills. Yep.
Yeah, go get the emails, guys. So with this being the only thing I've got to show, I'm going to invite you to share your screen if you've got artwork or pages that you'd like to walk characters through, let people know what's gone on in the first 3 issues and what's going to happen in 4 and 5 here to get them invested.
Yes, let me share this. So first things first, I will share. Okay, so this right here I got which is going to be part of one of the packages. This is just, so we made duo characters of an 11 by 17 paper poster. This is the original pencils done by Demetrius. So obviously, if anybody who's followed us or knows who we are and all that stuff, they know Demetrius is from Greece. He does all the artwork from there and all that stuff. And this is going to be the original pencils that he's currently sending to me to the United States here. And this is going to be part of the packages. So we only made 5 of these. This is just this is Andy and Miller here that you'll see here, and I have other. Let me pull up some other ones.
Yeah, they're the 2 police officers that we meet in issue 1.
Yep. Now let me pull up the other ones that we got here.
And we also meet Andy's son and the rest of the family, and I just feel sorry for Andy's son because the kid can't even go to the bathroom without grandma saying, "Everything come out okay?" Like, it's like, "No, grandma, I had gallstones. I got stuck."
Here is, all right, so this is Ty and Mason, the two brothers, right? And and then the young, the young one right there is Mason, the bathroom one you were saying. And
right, yes.
So then we got, let's get them all moving here. Sorry.
Oh, JR, I completely understand where you're coming from. Hasn't been backing unfinished projects because half the things he's backed haven't completed. I get that. Purchase digital only when they're complete. You're going to have a digital tier, I'm guessing.
Oh yeah. We'll have a digital catch up and all that stuff.
Yep. So, and that's why we're not asking you to back tonight. We're asking you to be notified when the campaign goes up.
Just be prepared, right?
1 through 3 are done. they are completed because you've already had the campaigns done and out.
Yes.
So this is 4 and 5.
So this is Dad and Mom's original sketching and all that stuff. And like I said, so each one I'm showing you is just one. He only did one of each. So when these are going to be on there and all that stuff, we're going to have them all separate. So whichever one you want to get, again, all original penciling. There's not going to be very many of these at all. So I mean,
so that's going to be a tier where it's like, hey, I want the one that comes with this original pencil sheet here, and it's a character study.
It'll be listed because we'll have it all listed there, and this is Demetrius drawing some of one of the infected that we got here.
That's gonna be the first one to go because if you're a zombie fan, you want the zombie sketch.
Yep, exactly. So that's what I'm saying. So that's one of the big things that we're going to be doing too. Another thing I'm working on as well is getting Kenner action figures of the brothers too. So that's going to be another thing where it's just going to be limited of each figure and all. It'll be just the brothers this time around, Andy, Ty, and Mason, and then after that, depending on what kind of noise it brings and all that stuff, we'll take it from there and see if people want more of those figures or not.
Now you said Kenner. Do you mean that in the generic sense, or you're literally going to Kenner?
Yeah, no, in the generic action figure kind of thing, where the nice little toy there, and then you have the nice display. To me, I don't know why, I just always find those interesting, and I always find those kind of cool. I don't know why. The character is always like very plain Jane, but it's always the background that got me, the box that got me. So we'll be doing those just to see what kind of noise it generates, and I've always liked them. And I know that there's a weird fan base for them too. So hopefully I find those people.
Well, they won't be there for you if you call them weird, but
Well, I mean, it could be or could not be. I mean, it is what it is. It's if they like it. Like I said, I like the box. I collect them for the box. I don't grab them.
We know who we are.
Yeah, but that's exactly it, though. So,
well, it's got to be cool though to see. I mean, it's one thing to see something that's in your head and an artist puts it down on paper, but then 100%. To see a 3D representation of it that's solid and in your hand. That's next level.
Exactly. That's going to be another level, like you said, and then making like the detailed figures too that I would love to do in the future too would just be another awesome kind of thing. I mean, it's awesome enough to have it on paper, like you said as well, like to see it in your head for many years and in text form on your computer, and then finally finding an artist to do it all too. It just adds another whole level to it, and that brings that excitement to it. It makes the writing process a lot more fun too, because you could just anticipate what it's going to look like. And
with the proliferation of 3D printers now, it's a lot easier to get this kind of a thing done.
Oh yeah, and there's so many people are doing it now, and it's crazy because it's like a lot of it is expensive. Like the machines to do the 3D printing is like expensive, but a lot of people are doing them. You could find them. I mean, at least where I'm at, like there's like when I went to my hometown Comic-Con, there was a ton of booths that had their own like things that they were selling. I was like, wow, that's crazy.
Oh yeah. I went to a science fiction convention 10 years ago, thereabouts, and there was a 3D printer, and I was fortunate I got in on day one early because it took forever for the things to finish up, and a lot of people went home with that stuff having to be mailed to them. But it was, it's like Tron, you stood in the middle of this cage, and then this camera just went around you and around you and around you, like, you don't move. Yeah. But I just had one of me. I even had it painted to look like me. But if you were in cosplay, which is what a lot of people were doing, they were coming in their cosplay and then getting D&D miniatures made of themselves in their costume to miniatures.
That's awesome though too, and that's just it. I mean, that would be. I didn't even know that's like a cool thing. Nobody had it like that at the Comic-Con I was at too. That would have been awesome just to kind of have that go around you and do the 3D printing of it.
There were varying sizes of crowds. No one was there for RJ standing with his hands on his hips in his red T-shirt and jeans. They just camera's moving around. But after that, my friend David Peterson had somebody he had a booth babe pushing his book, and she was in a chainmail bikini with a loincloth. Suddenly, there was a lot of interest in how this 3D process works.
They all came over like, wait a second, what's going on over here?
So you're saying that camera just goes around her, huh? And then it comes over on that computer over there. Yeah. That's fascinating.
Yeah, that always seems to work, huh? She probably just explained it a little better, right?
Yeah. Well, that's that's why car shows are nothing but bikini shows with cars.
Exactly.
People know what sells a thing. So you said you're wrapping up a season. You got long-term goals for this thing.
Yeah, yes, I actually, and to add on to that too. So we'll be ending our season 1 here at the end of the year. It'll be our volumes will be 6 issues per volume per season, I guess. So that'll be our first volume done at the end of the year, and then we're at the beginning of next year. We're really going to market off a volume booklet. That's going to be our big kind of thing too, we'll have a lot of cool stuff later on and all that. But we added a new artist or new writer. Sorry, not a new artist, a new writer to Avalon as well for season 2, at least. Hopefully she stays a little longer. Her name is Callie Oberlander, and we're starting that process right now and moving along with that process. She brings she brings like more to the mental health aspect. So, from her prior writing and all that stuff too, I'll give her podcast a shout out right now as well. It's called the Tia and Ria Show on Spotify, and I think it's also on iTunes as well. Look it up. It's a good scripted podcast that she writes. It's a very good show. I mean, it's half the reason why I asked her to be a part of Avalon. So check it out if you're just driving to work or whatever. It's a very good podcast. I recommend it highly. But yeah, a lot of mental health writing that she brings to it, brings a lot of depth to that, and that's what we're really going to be focused on in the season 2 aspect of Avalon as well. Obviously, like you read in issue 1, you saw a lot of it kind of sprinkled in there, and then through these next few issues, you'll see it all kind of flesh out a little more, and then you'll start to understand characters more and their history and why they are the way they are, and then it just really starts to move forward along with the infection and all that stuff in season 2. So season 2 is going to be very, intense with a lot of different things.
I mean, you can imagine that mental health would play a serious part of any good zombie drama, because think about how much people lost their damn minds when we had to wear a mask because of another virus that was going around.
And that's just it though too, and that's what gives us all the ammunition on the apocalypse kind of writing spectrum. But like, look, if this is too far-fetched, and remember what happened just a few years ago, you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's just like there's a lot of that you can use, and because in an apocalypse and an infection and all that stuff, it's a little elevated. There's people attacking each other, there's people eating each other, so people are going to act dumb, people are going to do stupid things, or people are going to do crazy things to make sure people are safe. So a lot of it is reasonable, and with that happening a few years ago, people can relate to it as well, with this apocalypse and all that stuff that Avalon's about too. That's another aspect of relating to this comic book, not only with the characters, but just the world that they're going to be living in and how it's all kind of controlled and how it's all handled.
Some guy's going to get rich selling bite-proof clothing.
And that's just it.
You'll be wearing a lot more long sleeves all the time because you don't want to expose any flesh, anything that teeth can be sunk into.
And that's just it. And you wonder why no zombie books or zombie shows or anything has really did that. And the other one that kind of did it was World War Z, but I don't even really count it.
Yeah. And well, World War Z again was, at least in the books, a different kind of zombie. They were fast. Yeah. They were fast zombies. And that was always almost a joke about zombies in movies, was that it was their persistence that caught you. You could be sprinting away like Huey Bolt, and
and
they'll just keep running. You'll get tired. I'll get to you tomorrow.
Yeah, because you'll get tired and I won't. No, and that's just it. And that's the fun part of the whole class. The watching that Night of the Living Dead, or even the original Dawn of the Dead. It was always kind of fun. And that's what I liked about The Walking Dead when it first came out too, is how they kind of rolled with those kind of zombies too, and just let them slow down and do their thing. But they did it on another level too, which I obviously enjoyed it. But And then
JR's like, would world government communists try to prevent the investigation of a zombie virus escaping from their lab? Nah, Nazi zombies got to be the baddie. Yeah, but we'd blame it on somebody else. And you know, that's the other thing. You know, a zombie outbreak requires patient zero. And you know, whether it's asteroid crashing from space or a satellite with a virus on it or somebody playing around with a petri dish that sneezes.
Right. And I think that's what you got to do as the creator or the writer of all this stuff when you first started out is, you know, even if you don't plan on showing it in your project or whatever it is, you got to think of how it came from patient zero or what happened with patient zero. You know what I'm saying? So, and I think it just helps your whole experience. It helps your whole writing process and all that stuff is, where did this thing originate? Why? How? You know, and that was the fun part of this whole thing when Alan and I were really doing this from the beginning, is trying to figure out, and that's where the research came in and trying to figure out how patient zero could have gotten this and all that stuff too. And like I said, even if we're never going to show it, you know, and all that stuff, and I'm not saying we will or we won't, but it's good to know it for how you're telling, so you know where it kind of came from and what this virus or whatever it is is capable of.
Now, is your virus a species hopping virus?
No.
I mean, you can have zombie cows.
No.
It's specific to people.
Yeah, so it's going to be specifically, it's going to be turning people. Yes.
And you have more to show here. So here we are. The crows are back. Crows are carry-on birds. So.
Yep, and this is just to kind of show
some really good
the artwork again. Yeah, he does a phenomenal job. Demetrius does a phenomenal job. I'm a big fan of the way he does the blood. You know, the black, white, and then the blood really pops all the time. You know, and for anybody who kind of read issue 2, you can kind of understand what's going on here. And right here too, I wanted to show everybody as well. So with the inhaler thing, small thing right now, but it's something to show you what's to come. You know, medication is going to be a thing in this kind of comic as well. People have real life, you know, health problems. People need their inhalers. People need to take medicine to stay alive. You know, there's people who have heart medications that they need. People have diabetes. There's, you know, people are dealing with cancers and all that stuff. So a lot of that stuff's going to be shown in this, you know, and it's not going to just be shown or talked about like in other things and pushed over to the side. This is going to be affecting the story. This is going to be affecting characters and taking part of this whole thing too. So that was the one another small thing that I couldn't stand with the other zombie things is, yes, they've talked about this. Yes, you've seen characters do that, but it was always like done very fast and then pushed off to the side. No, okay, forget about it. These are things that are real things that people deal with on a day-to-day basis. Like, just if you don't have your medicine, if somebody who takes their medicine, you don't have their medicine, that's a serious thing. Like people are gonna, you know, high stress. They need to go get their medicine, you know, whatever it is, and all that stuff, wherever they're at, and they can't get to it. That's a real stressful situation for that individual or that family. You know, the family there too. So
yeah.
And
especially if production is shut down. I mean,
sure.
is a zombie apocalypse? Okay, what if it's not a zombie apocalypse? What if it's just like a pandemic or a zombie epidemic? It's a zombie outbreak. You know, Fayetteville's having a zombie outbreak. Be careful if you're driving through there today. You know, at what level do you shut down the means of production?
Right. And that's a good thing you brought up as well. And I think what helps it was what we had to deal with years ago, you know, and I think that definitely helps the process here where it's like, what's a good time frame, you know, and again, that makes it realistic for people reading this thing as well as what could be a good time frame for this stuff to get shut down. Government kind of has to come in here. People need, you know, there needs to be stations for people to kind of like, what do you call those areas where people like bunker up and they take medicine? I can't even think right now. My brain's just fried. Yeah, quarantine and all that stuff too, and areas, these tents and all that stuff as well, where they have all that stuff to take care of people as well. So at what point do they start doing that? And I think that's a good thing as well that people are going to kind of see with, you know, Avalon, that, and like you've read with issue 1, that it's sort of a slow burn for a little bit there, and then it starts to pick up pretty quickly, and then you start seeing like, okay, stuff's moving pretty quick here, but at what time does it, like, what day or what week or whatever is this stuff, like you said, going to it's going to start getting shut down and halt production? We need to stop and see what's going on first, so that's going to be the interesting for people to read and figure out over time goes on.
Yeah, I mean, I could see like big companies, pharmaceutical companies, big pharma, saying, okay, this is happening. Y'all going to get scanned. None of you are going to leave. Go get your families, bring them in. They're going to get scanned. They ain't going to leave. We're going to post armed guards, private security. BlackRock's going to surround the building. We're going to keep making medicine because people are going to be needing it. They're going to be needing a lot of it, but y'all stay in here.
Sure.
so we don't get the infection in the building.
And that's just that, and that could be a very standard thing. It could not be, so, and that's you're gonna have to read and find out what happens, I guess.
Yeah. Now, do we find out at any point, or do you plan to find out at any point, who the bad guys are, where this virus started? Was it man-made? Was it natural? What will happen to them if it was of them?
So I will say, I know where it came from. I know what I want, or how it came about, what happened, and all that stuff as well. It's complicated right now because I have, with Avalon, I want to tell a specific story. Now, that does not mean there's not going to be spin-off series. My big goal is with Avalon is to tell a specific story, go down a specific avenue and touch on certain things. I want to do spin-off stories that are in the same universe as Avalon and tell in depth what's going on.
Okay.
So right now, it's kind of a question mark, if that makes sense. So right now with Avalon, I'm focused on a specific story and getting a specific kind of thing for people to read and enjoy, and all that other stuff is a question mark in different categories. I would love to do it. Obviously, there needs to generate kind of some people to read it and enjoy it and all that stuff too, and get it out there for more people to see it. For a timely fashion as well, because I've told people in the past, Avalon is always going to come out. So nobody's ever going to have to worry about nobody getting funded or, oh, it's not going to get funded, whatever it is. Avalon is always going to come out. The only thing that, the reason for the Kickstarters and making sure this gets funded is having it come out in a timely fashion. That's the important thing to me. That's the important thing to people that are already reading it and all that stuff too. So it's to getting out there in front of more people, in front of more eyes, so we can get Avalon out in a timely fashion. That's the important thing for us. No matter what, it's going to come out. It's just a matter of when. And that's where the Kickstarters come into place.
Now, Avalon, the word has a provenance. I mean, it's a very King Arthurian. It's sort of like a Valhalla. It's sort of like it's a heaven place for warriors.
Mm-hmm.
And so what does it have to do with a zombie apocalypse?
So there's about 3 different reasons for the title of Avalon, and I'm not going to tell you any of them. Because
of course not. Why do I even ask questions?
I know. Unfortunately, the reason is because that gets told throughout the story. And that was the fun thing too as well. Way back then, we're trying to figure out the name of this with me and Alan and all that stuff, and we came across Avalon. Like I said, there's 3 reasons that you will. I'll tell you that much, because that's giving you a lot of information. Because when something comes out here very soon, you'll figure it out in the next issue or the next 2 issues. You're going to think that's it, but I'm going to tell you that it's not just it. So people who are watching this will realize that it's not just what you're about to find out. There's more to it than just seeing the name Avalon and what it means in the next few issues, in these 2 issues that we're doing the Kickstarter for now. So there's more to it than just that. And that's what I'll tell you. That's giving you a lot of information.
Okay. I didn't notice anything that tied it to a specific time period other than the sort of the eternal now. I mean, I wouldn't think it was in the 40s if I was reading it then, because cell phones and stuff.
Yeah.
But are you referencing anything that is historical fact? For instance, JR is asking if there's any inspiration recent enough to be affected by things going on in Ukraine. We were talking about medicines and how hard it is to find, and he brought up things like what's going on in Ukraine and how hard it is to get medication there now.
Sure. and nothing specific right now, but it is, but it could be, is what I mean. Is like, so when you see all them dealing with all the stuff that they're dealing with right now as well, and again, that just goes to our point as the creator and writing and making sure that people can relate or understand what's going on. Just look at other people that are dealing with this. We had to deal with that here. Ukraine's dealing with it right now. Other countries that go through their problems and, their government problems and civil wars for that matter as well, when they're shut down and all that, they have to deal with that as well. And there's going to be a lot of things that, and as the issues come out, we'll explain where we're coming from more and more as time goes on, and how we got to where we're going, or why we went a certain direction with certain things. Because there's gonna be different characters that go through different things in different countries that come over to this country. And now they're seeing Avalon, this infection kind of stem out. So there's gonna be a bunch of wild things, for, like I said, that everybody can relate to. There's not going to be anybody who's going to feel left out here, as in future issues and all that stuff, when we start developing more characters and meeting more characters and all that stuff too. So it's going to be exciting for a lot of different people. So we're excited to show all that.
You talk about different countries coming over, and I was just thinking that if I were this country, and I wanted to be, a real cynical and militaristic version of it, I would definitely be, defending the populace from the zombie invasion.
Mm-hmm.
But I would make sure I didn't kill all of them, because if I was thinking ahead, I'd be like, you know what? Better than a nuke, why don't we just drop a cage of zombies on Russia and let them go to town and weaponize these things?
Exactly. And that's how some, big governments can kind of, take control of things. And that's just the thing. And there's a lot. Again, I have plans for a bunch of different volumes in my head right now. We're working on volume 2, season 2. I kind of go back and forth with calling them both the same thing. They mean the same thing to me. Volume 2 and season 2 are the same thing. But I have many volumes in my head that I want to write. And like I said, there's a lot of different things that I want to do with this story's particular with Avalon. There's a lot of side stories that I want to tell in the universe of Avalon. It won't be like in Avalon's issues, you know what I'm saying? But it'll be in that universe, and as we come out with it, and we'll explain it and all that stuff as time goes on, it'll be written in the comics as well. But that's, like I said earlier too, that's my plan. I want to have a bunch of different stories leading up to Avalon, and then sub stories that are taking place in the current timeline of Avalon. Like you're saying, like there's people that take advantage of situations. There's governments that will take situations. There's other countries that might be going through this problem as well that we might want to tell about. So, and this story takes place in Erie, Pennsylvania. Erie, Pennsylvania takes in a lot of refugees, so, and they're going to have a bunch of, there's going to be some characters in this story that are coming up here that, are refugees and all that stuff too. So that's going to be an exciting thing for us. And hopefully a lot of people who, were refugees and kind of, want to, feel as if they're in something, and that's going to be something for Avalon, the conclusion. We want to include everybody in our world that we're making right now.
So I had a question. I'd like, no, you can't answer that question because that just ruins all the story points. But one of the things about The Walking Dead was that you would have audience members get attached to somebody and then they're dead, because, that's what happens when you're fighting zombies. People die.
Yeah.
Is there anybody here that we should don't get too attached to this person?
Well, and how many issues did you read? Just the first one?
Just the first one's what I had.
Okay, well, I'll say, based on what we already have on physical form, you're going to realize real quick that come on, you already got hit with it, and I've said this in prior interviews as well, and it's not so much. It's more of a mentality kind of thing for me when I'm writing these out. Is not so much that I'm in control of the characters. I'm trying to, because a big thing that we focused on as well is making the world a main character. Right now you're meeting this family. That's a main character, not an individual. One thing we don't want to focus on is a hero's journey. It's been done, so many times before. We want to focus on a family as a whole. and then the world is also a main character. So the way as my mentality that when I'm writing this comic out is I want to make the world dictate what happens to these characters, not me. I don't want to keep a certain character alive because of plot armor, if that makes sense. Like with Daryl with The Walking Dead or Rick with The Walking Dead, they had the plot armor. There's not going to be plot armor. I guess that that'll make people mad of what kind of you brought up that question is, but it's just like anybody. We don't dictate who lives in our world, and it's the world that does it. What you do and what your decisions are, good or bad, there's consequences to them. So the world will be making the decision what happens to these characters, not so much me, if that makes sense. So it's more of a mentality thing for me rather than it making
there's
sense.
no promise that in season 12 Mason's going to be walking around in a leather jacket with a barbed wire wrapped baseball bat,
and an eye patch and all that good stuff, right?
But that does bring up something else here, and that is you're dealing with kids as some of your main characters here, and you're telling a long form story. Are you planning for some kids to grow up? I can't say all of them because again plot armor isn't there. But will we see a sort of natural aging of the characters?
Sure. Yeah. That's the idea. I guess, and that's the idea right now as well. There's going to be kids, coming into it as well. There's more to come. There's going to be more characters you're going to meet, and and the hard thing is each character. And I know obviously there's going to be more characters. There's going to be specific characters that more people like, right? And that's obviously the ones you'll be focusing on, the family and all that stuff too. But we want to try to make each character, like I said earlier, I'll say it again, relatable. So there's obviously going to be characters you hate. They're written to be hated. There's going to be characters you love. There's going to be just characters that develop other characters. You're going to be a lot of characters. People are going to grow up in this world. So I guess I'll answer your question like that. Yes.
Some people will grow up in this world.
Yes.
Life finds a way. Now I want to see zombies and dinosaurs in the same picture.
Yeah, that'd be cool, right? I never even thought of that. That you know what? Dinosaurs are in this.
Okay, there's a
zombie dinosaurs.
Zombie dinosaurs. That's a title. Trademark that right now. Get the copyright put in on that one. I wish the campaign was already up so we could talk about what's available. What is going to be available on this campaign? You showed us penciled pages. We know there's going to be physical and digital books.
Sure.
Can you give us price points?
I'll give you a quick rundown of what we're looking at right now. Off the top of my head, I don't have it in front of me right now. But we're going to be doing physical copies of 4 and 5 for sure. The unfortunate thing is I'm not going to have any physical issue 1s for this Kickstarter. We just sold out of our thing. I have to order a bunch of them. I'm not sure if they're going to be in here in time. If they are, I'm going to make an update and I'm going to add them in there. But as of right now, there's not going to be any issue 1 physical copies on there. But there's issue 2s, 3s, 4s, and 5s physical. And we're going to have a PDF catch-up tier 1 through 5. You get all of them. We're going to have variant covers for 4 and 5. And we're also going to have a bundle in there that has all the variant covers. So if you missed our last Kickstarters or you can't make it to any of our events, we have event exclusive Kickstarter or event exclusive variant covers that people can only buy in person or on the Kickstarter. So we're trying to make them very exclusive. But we're going to make a bundle in there that you can get all the exclusive covers for issues 2, 3, 4, and 5. We're going to be doing promo photos of I think we're going to be doing 2 or 3 posters that you can get. Those original pencils that we showed. And like I said, we're going to be looking at making those Kenner action figures as well. And that's going to be another one that we're looking forward to doing as well. And then we have a bunch of stretch goals that we want to hit. Like I said, I don't have them off the top of my head.
Do you have a price point in mind for basic tier? Just what's the book going to cost 4 and 5 together?
4 and 5 together will be, in physical form, will just be $10. You know, it'll be 5 each.
That's for 2 books. $5 per book.
Yes.
Right
The PDF catch-up will be $20 for 5 of them. I think that's what I have it listed as. But yes, the 2 books will just be the 10 for 4 and 5. And then I'm not going to be doing the physical catch-up. I'll have the add-ons if people want to get their issue 2 add-ons. Just like I said, because unfortunately
you don't have one yet. You might not
the
have
issue ones. If we get one before the Kickstarter ends, of course we'll add it, you know, for everybody to get it and all that stuff as well. But we do also have a Shopify website that people can get it out in the future as well. So when we have those and the Kickstarter isn't there, as long as you have us on social media and follow us everywhere, you'll be able to find all that stuff. And, you know, we're pretty up to date. We're pretty up to keeping people updated on all of our social medias. So if you follow us anywhere on there too, we're always updating people and letting people know what we got.
All right. Well, Brandon, I think that's all the questions I can ask you that you'd be able to answer. I think we're just going to wrap things up here. Appreciate you coming on the show and bringing Avalon on to show our viewers tonight. This is an interesting project, and I'm not a huge zombie fan because I've seen it, done it all.
Sure.
They're dead. Headshots. What's the
Literally,
cure? Headshots.
Yes, exactly.
But this one is priced right and it's drawn right, and I'm going to be curious to get on this one. So that's why I put my name on the notify me button, folks.
Awesome.
Be sure you all do the same thing. Want you all be aware that at the top of the hour here, Mike Walters will be going live on his channel, The Mike Stand, with the niche news of the day, everything in comics, manga, anime, and professional wrestling. So when you're done here, do pop over and tune in, give that a like and a share. Raid the channel. That's the word. Raid the channel.
Yeah, everybody just raid it. Just go right in there.
Everybody in the chat, thank you so much for popping in here tonight. We do appreciate you being here, being part of the show. We're just a podcast falling in the woods without you out there in the audience. So, you know, it's worth it to us that you're here. And as always, while you were here, we just hope you had a blast.